You know, my friends, one of my favorite things to read about is American history. I particularly enjoy reading about the period shortly before and during and after the American Revolution. There's something fascinating about the struggles that people faced during a time when their future was so uncertain. And I have been intrigued by the Minutemen, those citizens who agreed to take up arms, if necessary, against the mother country, England, if that is what the situation required. These people seemed to have deep-seated convictions, and they were willing to risk it all, if they had to, in order to do what they felt was right. And the name Minutemen refers to the fact that these citizens were asked to be ready at a moment's notice if they happened to be under some threat from the British Army. And so each night, they would go to bed not knowing if this was the night that they would have to jump out of bed and race out the door into the darkness to face who knows what. I cannot even begin to imagine what that felt like. And I don't mean the part about having clothes and food and a gun ready to go. I'm talking about the mental part of it, the not knowing, the constant fear and uncertainty they must have faced for weeks, maybe even months. It must have been completely unnerving. In a very similar way, our readings today speak about preparedness, about being ready. In our second reading from Hebrews, we hear how, at God's request, Abraham immediately packed up and in faith journeyed to an unknown land. And as a result, God's incredible promise to him came true. Abraham and his wife Sarah, a childless couple advanced in years, would soon have descendants who were as numerous as the stars in the sky. In a sense, God came to Abraham, and Abraham was ready to go and to do whatever God was asking of him. So in a certain sense, Abraham and Sarah were a kind of Minutemen in faith. In today's gospel, we hear about the importance of our being ready to receive Jesus himself whenever he comes, much like the servants preparing for the return of their master from a wedding. Gird your loins and light your lamps, and be ready to open immediately when he comes and knocks. Jesus makes it clear that we should be prepared for his coming to each of us at a time that we do not expect. And so as followers of Jesus, we are also called to be Minutemen in faith. I think often today's gospel passage is interpreted to mean that we do not know how much time that we have left on this earth. So we should live each day as if it were our last, not putting off until tomorrow things that we can do today. And there's a certain amount of truth in that. Personal holiness is something we should not drag our feet about. Eventually, the phrase, "Well, I have plenty of time," will no longer be true. No one of us knows just how much more time we have, my friends. And yet this gospel story is so much more than that. The truth is that the Lord Jesus knocking on our door does not simply refer to the day that he calls us from this world to our true home. Rather, it includes every single time Jesus wants to come to us, dwell within us, and speak to us. It's really about every time Jesus invites us to be more, to do more, and to embrace more in faith. And that takes a preparedness of the highest order, being on a kind of heightened spiritual awareness, one in which at a minute's notice, we gladly do whatever it is that Jesus is asking of us. And that's the key, my friends. Jesus knocking on our door does not simply mean that he wants to come inside. It also means he's inviting us to drop whatever it is we think cannot wait and trust that the journey we're going on with him is much more important than anything else in life. That is what it means to gird our loins. It means not wasting a minute when it comes to living a life of faith. Of course, as many of us know, living a life of faith is not an easy life. It's not without sorrow, hardship, disappointments. It has its crosses, some relatively undemanding, some unimaginably heavy. And so in a sense, stepping out in faith is stepping out into the unknown, into the darkness in some cases, but with the Lord Jesus within us, illuminating our way as well as the lives of those with whom we come into contact. So, my friends, when we go to bed tonight, let's be prepared, not for war, but for love, not for conflict, but for reconciliation, not for judgment, but for mercy. That is the kind of revolution that this world needs. People of faith striving to follow the way of Jesus. Not tomorrow, or next week, or next month, but today, this hour, this very minute, and every minute.